I must go to the game store.
Why?
Because I have to go and purchase the Spyro Reignited Trilogy so I can review it.
But the game isn't even out yet.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think as of this day, the game comes out in like a couple of weeks or so.
Oh. Well, then, what should I review then?
Well, if you really want to, I guess you could probably check out the Spyro games on PlayStation 1. Oh, alright then. Seriously, what was the point of this intro? I have no fucking idea. Hello to all my wonderful cheese balls out there, and welcome back to another episode of Cheese and Crackers. And man, it's finally time to talk about Spyro the Dragon. I always seem to talk about Crash Bandicoot a lot, and I mean a lot. Seriously though, I should get some help. You cannot talk about Crash Bandicoot without even considering Spyro. They're like the peanut butter to the jam sandwich. They're the Batman to the Robin because these two characters are great together. Except for that Game Boy Advance game where they do join forces together, and we don't talk about that game. We never do, because that game is totally fucking shit. And how shit is it? Mate, toads. So move over, Crash. It's time to give Spyro the full attention he rightfully deserves. So now we are in the season where the Reignited Trilogy is about to be released. But before we can even get to that game, we first need to check out its old roots, because we wouldn't be getting the 3 Spyro games remade from the ground up without the original PlayStation 1 trilogy. Spyro has had quite a roller coaster over the years, starting off strong in the PlayStation 1 era, then slowly fading away throughout the PlayStation 2 era. And as for the Skylanders series, while Crash Bandicoot died after the release of Crash Mind Over Mutants, Spyro, however, didn't die, as he was still living in the Skylander games. But as a result from that, his reputation was disappearing and slowly becoming forgotten in the modern industry. But once the trailer for the Reignited Trilogy came out, everyone was talking about Spyro once again. Both old fans and even new fans as well. And it's all thanks to the incredible feedback towards the insane trilogy, proving that the platform genre was not dead. So much like every retro game review, it's time to see if the first installment is still worth giving it a go. This is my review on Spyro the Dragon. The story starts off with the news team interviewing dragons in the Artisan World, one of the 5 realms in the Dragon Kingdom.
What about this Gnasty Gnorc character?
Wait, hold on. So, did you just say Gnasty Gnorc?
Gnasty Gnorc.
But isn't the letter G supposed to be silent? Should it be Nasty Gnorc instead? Well, obviously somebody didn't go to dragon school. Although having said that, I do pronounce the word Simsoms, so I guess I should also be at dragon school. When the news team mentions Gnasty Gnorc, I'm just gonna keep saying that from now on, one of the dragons steps in and calls him a simple-minded creature with no threat to the dragon worlds. And calls him ugly as well. Ugly? Gnasty Gnorc was offended from that insult and uses a magic spell to turn the adult dragons into stone crystals. Because of storytelling reasons, Spyro was not affected, and with a little dragonfly named Sparks comes to help you, Spyro goes off to rescue the dragons and stop Gnasty Gnorc. The story is very simple. Here's a villain, does something that distresses the world, and here comes the hero to save the day. It's very cliched, especially for a PS1 platformer, but back in the day, the main focus was not in the story. The main focus was on the gameplay. Oh shit, PS4 controller. But before we can get to the gameplay, there's something that immediately got my attention, and I cannot look past this. And that is Spyro's voice. I'm sorry if I say this, but his voice is just extremely annoying to me, and it feels like I lost a few brain cells in the process.
What about Nasty Gnorc? I'm going after him.
Imagine yourself in an airplane and someone sits next to you and doesn't shut up throughout the entire flight speaking in a weird voice when all you want to do is listen to your music. Yeah, that's Spyro in a nutshell. So now with that rant done and dusted, let's talk about some gameplay features. Even though Spyro can be compared to Crash Bandicoot, but in terms of gameplay, I would say that Spyro reminds me of Super Mario 64. You have a hub world to explore, you can choose what levels to go in, and collect as much collectibles as you possibly can. The main objectives in the levels is to just collect. There's nothing really interesting to say about it. The game places you in a level, and you're off. The main items to collect are the gems. Gems are located in the levels and hub worlds as well. You'll see in the top left corner how much gems you've collected in a level, and once you've collected all the gems in a single level, you'll get a... well, you won't get anything, but it'll show you that you fully completed the level and there's nothing else to collect, so... ta-da! Another item to collect is the dragon eggs being holded by these absolute frustrating bunch of people that put it in Ferrari engines up their assholes. I remember seeing them in Spyro 3 and they were really challenging when I was a wee little boy, but playing it now, it's not as tough as I remembered. And you can tell that they're nearby when these guys starts to mock you.
What? Nobody knows me and gets away with it.
Come on, you stupid fucking bitch. Yeah, sucked in! I got you now, you little... biatch. Once you have collected all the dragon eggs, you'll get... well, again, you won't get anything. That's the thing with Spyro the Dragon, as you're only collecting items just for the sake of collecting. Sure, there's a start to finish in each level, but the real only objectives you'll do is collecting. Whenever it's a bad thing or not, I guess it only depends how you feel, and I personally don't mind it. The designs in the levels and the hub worlds are good. It feels like each level is an open world experience, and the levels does have a nice appeal to them. What's cool as well for a PlayStation 1 title is there's no fog in a faraway distance. Back in the day, most games put a fog around the game so that it doesn't explode your console. But in here, that's replaced with some not so good textures, but the closer you get to it, you will see more better detail when it's fully rendered. Also, throughout the levels, it's your job to try and rescue all the dragons and free them. Another thing that's cool is each dragon has its own dialogue. Some dragons will give you friendly advice to help you along your journey, but some other dragons will only say something completely random and they just disappear.
Spyro, it's great to see you, but I've got to go.
I should put that on my Twitter information. Yay. Now, if you have seen everyone's take on Spyro the Dragon, then most of them would mention the one sentence that can almost be a meme if it wanted to be, and that is the thank you for releasing me.
Thank you for releasing me. Thank you for releasing me.
Thank you for releasing me.
Thank you for releasing me.
Spyro does control very well, but it just doesn't feel tight for me. I'm pretty sure this is an unpopular opinion because from what I've gathered, a lot of people don't really mind how Spyro moves. But for me at times, I don't feel like I'm totally in control of Spyro. But other than that, what else can Spyro do? He can glide from one place to another, which is always fun to do, charging around the levels making it an entertaining session, especially if you want to speedrun this game, and using your flame ability because it's common sense. and it would be weird if dragons used a different breath ability instead of flames, like, say, I don't know, bubbles? Speaking of charging and flaming, you use them to defeat your enemies. If an enemy is holding a shield, that means that you can't use your flames, so you'll have to charge. And you can't charge the big guys because he's too big, so you'll have to flame them instead. And I think it's a pretty neat idea. Another ability Spyro can do is Supercharge.
Supercharge?
By charging on the icon, Spyro can charge in a rapid pace, pretty much moving in the speed of sound, and it is very satisfying to use while in the treetops level. Another one is a very powerful fire breath. When a fairy kisses Spyro, it activates for a limited amount of time, and you can use it to defeat the bigger enemies wearing armor all around them. And then there's Sparks, and my dudes, Sparks is your best friend in this game. Sparks acts as a health meter for you. The maximum health is yellow, going down to blue, green, then finally disappearing once you get hit again. If you get hit without Sparks by your side, then you'll instantly lose a life. You can regain that health back by killing innocent creatures like sheeps, lizards, mushrooms, and many more, and a butterfly will spawn so Sparks can eat it. And I thought Gnasty Gnorc was the villain in this game, but Spyro just kills all these harmless creatures. Have I been playing on the wrong side this whole time? Nah. Another thing Sparks can do is help Spyro collect gems. It is really helpful as you don't technically have to touch it, but you do have to be near a gem in order for Sparks to grab it. It's almost like the game awards you for this for being good in Spyro the Dragon. And when Sparks disappears when you get hit, it's only then you'll have to touch the gems yourself. It's not that big of a punishment, it's just you'll have to be more mindful around your surroundings. And the soundtrack. Oh man, the soundtrack is absolutely glorious. Much like Monsters Inc. Scare Island, Spyro's music is really catchy and so fucking beautiful. And again, just to show off the wonderful music, here's a few examples. What's really interesting is one of the musics in Spyro the Dragon is actually the end credits for a Nickelodeon show called The Amanda Show. So when you think about it, Amanda is secretly Spyro. But seriously, Stuart Copeland, your music is bravo, romissimo. My dear friend, you have permission to have my babies. What the fuck did I just said? And then we have the Flight, and they're pretty cool. I wasn't a huge fan of them back in the day, but I have gone on to appreciate them. It is pleasing to try and knock everything down to get the best time, and comparing your time with your mates. As for the bosses, well, I don't want to say they suck because it is a harsh word, but yeah, they really do suck. The only praise I have to give them is for their costume designs, but other than that, all you'll be doing is chasing them, flaming them, and that's it. The boss fights are easy. Well, this game is a lot more easier than I remembered, and even Gnasty Gnorc is a terrible final boss, as it's just the same way how to defeat the other bosses. Now that I think about it, you don't interact with Gnasty Gnorc at all, and looking back, I do see him as a forgettable villain in my opinion. But I will say that Blowhard is the best fucking name for a villain ever. It just makes me want to smile every time I see it. And I don't know if this is a glitch or not, but I did experience this while in a boss battle. It looks like Spyro got his ass penetrated by a big fat... Now I could talk about Gnasty's loot, or I should say, Gnasty's galoot, but I haven't journeyed onto that stage before, so I don't have anything to comment about. Well, I guess that means it's time to give out my final thoughts about Spyro the Dragon, and yeah, I can see it is a good game, but I think one of the problems is this game does play it a bit safe. It is again another simple platform game, and if you have some knowledge and experience around a platform game before playing this game, then Spyro the Dragon is an easy cakewalk. Having said that, this game is pretty easy, the boss fight sucks, and there's not much purpose to collecting gems and the dragon eggs. But those cons does not affect how the overall expedition, playing as a little purple dragon and just going out on an adventure. The soundtrack is great, the level designs are good, and the graphics are great for its time. Before playing the Reignited trilogy, I strongly suggest, and that goes out to the newer fans as well, to give the original game a try first. It brings out a history lesson to anyone who wants to get into Spyro, and this game did mark a new era for platform games, because the adventure for Spyro has truly begun. And that adventure would continue in the next game, so join me next time as we take a look at Spyro 2, Ripto's Glimmer. I mean, Gateway to Rage.